Hi guys, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining, and today we're going to paint our soft pink flowers. Now this is a video tutorial. It's pre-recorded, it's not live, so feel free to go at your own pace. You can always rewind and rewatch the sections, and after it's premiered you're going to be able to pause it and give yourself as much time as you need for every single step, and then whenever you're ready you can just resume it and continue painting along with me. Now my name is Vera. I will be your instructor for today, and let's go through all our supplies to make sure we have everything that we're going to need. First thing you're going to need is a canvas. You are more than welcome to go with absolutely any size. I will be using 8 by 10 inch canvas, and I'm going to be using primary colors, student grade acrylic paint, and here are my primary colors: yellow, red, blue, plus black and white. Now, in regard to which shades of yellow, red, and blue, for yellow, you can use any shade. For blue, we recommend primary or phthalo blue, but generally any blue that's on a darker side and doesn't have any purple mixed into it, so has more like a greenish tint or undertone to it, would be ideal. As far as red, red that's more on a pinker side because we'll be mixing it into pink, but really doesn't really matter for red for this particular painting, but ideally on a pinker side, plus of course black and white. Another thing you're going to need is a pencil and maybe an eraser, because we will be starting with a sketch, so it's always good to have a pencil and eraser for the sketch. And there are a couple of different brushes that we'll be using today. I'm going to be using a pretty standard set, large, medium, and small. Because my canvas is on a smaller side, I'm not going to be using true large, true medium, and small. I'm going to be using more like a medium large, medium small, and small. So this brush, you're going to need the same exact brush regardless of the size of your canvas. That is a small brush with a pointy tip, ideally number 0, number 1, number 2, or just something with a really nice pointy tip. And for this too, I'm going to be using square brushes today because when I originally was making this painting, I did use square brushes. So I'm just going to stay true to that and use square brushes, but you're more than welcome to use rounded brushes or, pretty much any shape brushes. They don't necessarily have to be square. And of course, we're going to need a paper towel or reusable fabric cloth plus some water. So here's my water. All right, I'm gonna put my paint aside for now. I don't need it just yet. And I'm going to start with a sketch. So I'm gonna start by sketching in just a little ovals for my flower. So this one, I'm gonna start with the one that's right in the middle. So this one. So do you see it's oval this way? So the middle will be right here. So we're gonna do an oval this way. And if the middle of your canvas is right here, it's just a little bit to the left of the middle. So if this is my very middle of my canvas, it's like a little to the left of there. So if this is my middle, right, I'm just going to identify where my middle is. This flower is going to be just a touch to the left of that. I'm going to put a little oval here. This is for me to know where that flower is going. Okay, now I have one flower. Now I'm going to add 2 more, and those 2 are going to be slightly bigger. So next one is going to go somewhere here. They're going to overlap. And you see it ends on the right a little bit before the end of this one, but on the left it goes a little bit further, so maybe until here. And just, position it however you want. There's no specific positioning that you have to follow. This is really just a guideline. That's my second flower. And my third one is going to be in opposite direction, somewhere right here. Right, so those are my 3 flowers, or at least, space holders for those flowers. And now I'm going to add my vase, and my vase is going to be just 2 straight lines. So my vase is going to be right in the middle. You can actually start by putting a little line right in the middle. That way you can make sure that your vase is straight and it's as far from the left side as it is from the right side. So once you've positioned your middle line, you can add one straight vertical line on its left and one straight vertical line on its right on about the same distance from the middle line, and that would be your vase. And now we're gonna start sketching all those beautiful leaves. By the way, I'm likely gonna do my flowers a little bit more. This is just the space holder, but as I'm gonna be painting, I'm gonna paint a little bit outside the lines. So you will notice in the end they're gonna end up just a little bit bigger than what I added right now. So just a heads up for that. Yeah, so you might want to make your leaves just a touch bigger than what you want them because they will be slightly more covered by the flowers. But again, don't have to keep that in mind. That's just something I wanted to mention. So now leaves you can position however you want. You can add as many leaves as you want. What we're looking for here is we want to have them in different sizes. We want to have some bigger, some smaller. They're all about the same shape. The shape is not very different. It's just wider in the middle and has a pointy end. So it's thinner where it starts and wider in the middle that has a pointy end. So very basic, simple shape, but they're all on different angles. So some position it up and some position, it's almost like a clockwork in a way. They change angle and again, the size. So you can do your own thing or you can repeat after me. I usually like positioning larger ones first and then moving to smaller ones. So I'm going to position my section right here first. So as you can see, I have 4 leaves here. One big one that starts somewhere on the right side, goes until the very top here. And because we started with a pencil, you can always redo this. If you don't like what you start with, just position them somehow, somewhere, and then if you don't like it, you can erase it and redo it. You don't have to stick with something you don't love. So that's my first one, and then second one is going to be slightly smaller and it's going to peek behind this one. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to fix this other painting so it doesn't fall. All right, done. All right, so this one is just going to peek behind the first one. And then I'm going to add 2 more smaller ones. So 1 and 1 really small one. All right, so that's my right side. And for the flowers, hopefully you didn't do too harsh of a lines because they're so light, so you're going to be able to see your lines through. So if you did, that's okay. We can always lighten them up, but generally you want them on a lighter side. For the leaves though, don't be afraid to make your lines pretty harsh because we do want to see them. We're going to be painting around them and maybe we'll get a bit paint on them. So it's easier if you can go a little bit heavier on those leaves to make sure you actually see them once we start painting. Then I'm gonna add 1 more leaf that's kind of in the middle but kind of a little bit on the left and pretty vertical. Little guy right here. And then I'm gonna add 3 leaves right here. So I'm gonna start with the largest one. It's gonna be in the middle of the 3. And 1 smaller one's on the right, peeking behind. And 1 on the left, a little bit more on the angle. And again, this is just what I'm doing. You could be doing your own thing. That's totally fine. You don't have to repeat precision of like positioning the leaves. You can do your own thing. And I'm gonna add 3 more leaves here. So 1 leaf is gonna be in the middle, is gonna be a biggest one. It's gonna be somewhere right here. Then I will do 1 smaller one peeking from behind as well. And this one, the last one, the third one, is going to be overlapping my first one. All right, so here are my 3 flowers. Oh, sorry, 3 leaves. The top leaves are done, great. Now I'm going to move on to my bottom leaves, and I'm going to start with the right bottom side. So I'm going to start with this biggest leaf that's going to start from somewhere right here. So do you see before the two flowers meet? Somewhere on the left of that, so somewhere around here. It's going to be a fairly big one. All right, that's one. And then I'll do second one, pretty straight down, I would say. And two on my right. All right, that's good. Now I'm gonna do three right here because they're pretty big as well. Starting with the one that's right in the middle. It's gonna be the biggest one. It goes pretty much almost to the edge. Then a small one picking right here. And another fairly large one behind and slightly positioned more down. All right, and now I have, in my case, there are 5 here, but again, you can do your own number. It doesn't have to be 5. There's no reason why it has to be. That's just what worked for me when I originally made it. So again, see for yourself what needs to be done there and do that. But yeah, for me, I'm gonna stay true to that, and I'm gonna position the middle one first. It's gonna be a long one pointing that way, and then 2 here. And 2 here. All right, and those are all my leaves. Have them all sketched. Now the metals of your flowers, you can sketch them or you don't have to. I don't think I want to. I find that it's easier to actually freehand them, but if freehanding is not your jam and you would rather not freehand anything at all and you just would prefer to have everything sketched, that's totally fine. You can go ahead and sketch them. All right, so I have what I need to have. The only thing that I want to do here is I'm gonna lighten up a little bit. I still want to see them. I just don't want them to be too harsh. The circle lines to indicate my flowers, the positioning of my flowers. So you see they're fairly light. That's what I wanted. I wanted them to be a bit lighter. All right, and once we have this, we're gonna move on to our painting. So I usually love starting with a background, and I'm gonna stay true to that, and I'm gonna start with my background, and I'm gonna work from my lighter to darker. So I'm gonna start with my yellows here. So I'm gonna grab my paint. I will grab my large brush. I'll dip it in the water. I'm gonna grab some of my yellow. I'll mix it with some white. And with that mixture of yellow and white, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start coloring in this background. But do you remember how I asked you to make those leaves darker, outlines darker? This is the reason why. So once you start painting, if your paint gets over them, you can still see your outline, so you don't lose them. I'm gonna color in a bit of section here. And the same thing on the other side. Just make sure you go either right to your pencil lines or over them. Do not leave any gap between your lines and a background. Now I'm gonna mix another color. This one is gonna be a bit greener. So again, I'll start with yellow and white. And then to this mixture, I'm gonna add just a tiny, tiny smidge of blue. And it's gonna make nice, light, very, very vibrant green, which is perfect. So do you see it's such a nice, beautiful, it's almost like a lime green, except if it's not very fluorescent. It's a little softer than that, but it's quite out there on greenness, very limey. And I'm gonna color this in. I'll bring it up too. And then I will slightly dry brush it towards my yellow. So do you see there it creates a nice transition? And I'm dry brushing in vertical motion because I want my all visible lines to be very vertical here. But you could dry brush not in vertical motion, that's okay, but it will look slightly different. When I was making this painting originally, all the lines were vertical, so I'm going to stick to that, except of some on the top that are intentionally not vertical, but generally all these merging lines are very vertical. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Like when you color around the flowers, that's okay, you don't have to use vertical lines. It's just all those lines that will stay visible, like merging lines. Those we'll want to have vertical. All right, I'll even bring a few from the top down here. Okay, I like it, looks good to me. And now I'm gonna move on to my third color, which is gonna be like a colder blue, still not too dark. It's gonna be a bit darker than this. It's gonna be colder, bluer, but not too dark. So you can even use the same spot as a mixing point. And I'm just gonna add a bit more white, a bit more yellow, and definitely more blue. Just going to continue mixing it until I arrive at the right color. It's the same ingredients, it's just proportions. You continue adding them little by little. This time I'm going a little bit heavier on my blue. But there's still quite a bit of yellow and some white in it, so it doesn't look too dark. As you can see, it's like, let's say maybe like medium. Maybe by the time I'm done, it might be medium dark. But it's not really darker than that. All right, let's try this. Oh yeah, that's the one. And I'm just going to color in the rest with this color. And if your leaves mess up a little bit, that's okay. It's totally fine if they get a little messed up. We'll fix them. So yes, if you go careful around them, great, awesome. You'll have less job to do later, but if you don't, that's okay too. I wouldn't worry too much about that at this point. All right, so as you can see, I colored in all my top, and now I'm gonna start merging it down. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna dry brush, continue flicking it. So if here I used a bit more paint because I was covering fresh unpainted white canvas, now as I go down, I'm just gonna be using a little bit less, so more dry brushing it on. So a little bit less paint, but also a little bit less pressure on my brush. So just scraping the surface of my canvas. Of course, your refilling brush is needed. You don't want to use no paint at all. You just want to have a small amount of paint. And I personally don't mind a bit of streakiness here. I think it adds a character to it. I don't think it takes anything away from it. All right, and I might even just add a very dry brush, a couple lines from the bottom up, just again to break it up a little bit more. Add a bit of that linearness that I love. All right, it's getting there. Slowly, but it is getting there. Okay, there's still quite a bit of work on our background, but at least we have one coat, right? We have a nice little gradient of colors going on. So now I'm gonna start moving on to my darker colors. And the next darker color that I wanna go on to is going to be, it's gonna be even bluer darker color. So I'm just gonna take a bit of blue. I'm gonna mix it in here. And I'm gonna take a bit of white. So the same place where I mixed my original color, I used the remaining of it, which I didn't have much, by the way, to mix this new color. All right, I think that would be the one, but we'll have to try to find out. Oh yeah, I like it. Could go a little bit even darker than this. So basically, it's blue, white, still a little bit of yellow. Just this time, it's the minimal amount of yellow. Or you can use the remainings of your green. That will be just fine. That's what I did. And now I'm gonna start adding this blue here. So I'm gonna brush in a little bit here, and I'll brush it down. I'll start flicking it a bit into the flower too to start creating that floral texture. And I'll add some here, a couple of those lines. I'll add some here too, just a little bit. Definitely right here. I'm gonna add a bit around here. Almost like an intentional outline there. See? All right, I don't really have to continue going because I'm gonna add some other colors there anyway. But yeah, this is good. So I added a little bit everywhere. Now I want to add a touch of darker green. So to the same color, do you see it's fairly dark blue with just a slight green undertone? I'm going to add lots more yellow to turn it into this fairly dark green. But now to this, I'm also going to add the tiniest smidge of black So you see it almost turns into like a swampy color. Maybe even a touch more black. But when I say touch, I mean it. I mean like a tiny, tiny corner. All right, and with this color, I'm just gonna add some to the top as well. See, I'm dry brushing some on. You can literally cover the whole top, or you can do some areas. You don't have to do all areas. All right, looks awesome. Okay, so now I'm gonna wash my brush and I'm gonna take a little bit of white. So make sure your brush is really nice and clean. I'm gonna take some white here, not a lot because I'm gonna dry brush it as well. And I'm gonna dry brush it somewhere around here. I'm going quite heavy on white here around this section. I'm still using my large brush, but you're more than welcome to switch to a medium one if you find that that runs easier. But you see it's nice and transparent, and the reason why is because I don't have too much paint on my brush. If I did, it's not going to be nice and transparent. It's going to be very blobby and brush strokey. And then I'm going to go a little bit right here. So again, do you see nice and transparent? Because I have bare minimum. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me, guys. Bare minimum of paint on my brush. And then I'm gonna go right here. I'll add some here too. So again, not a lot overall. All right, our background is shaping up really nicely. There's still quite a few things to do, but it is, I would say, 70% done. All right, I think it's a good time to start working on other sections of this painting and leave the background alone for just a little bit. So I think I'm gonna move on to our flower vase because we don't have anything yet there just yet. And what I'm gonna start with is I'm gonna mix, I still am gonna use my large brush for a little bit, so I'm gonna mix a color. I'll start with blue, then I'll add a little bit of white to it to make about, I would say, medium light blue. And then to this medium light blue, I'm gonna add just the tiniest little smidge of yellow to give it that greener kind of teal undertone. As you can see, it's fairly light and vibrant. And with this color, I'm gonna go ahead right here. I'm gonna color in the portion here. Then I'm gonna wash off or dab off my brush. I can just dab it off, I don't even have to wash it off. I'm gonna take some straight white and I'm gonna bring it down from here. Right here. Down. And then I'm gonna dab off my brush in the paper towel again and I'm gonna grab straight dark blue not mixed with anything. And the rest right here, I'm gonna color in with this dark blue. And then, so do you see, I colored in the right side, slightly merged it, and then I'll bring it a bit up from here and a bit up right here too, closer to the edge. And I used a large brush for all of this, but of course you're more than welcome to use any other brush that works for you. If large is not working out, medium is a good choice as well. But now I can't really continue using my large here because it's getting too big. So I'm gonna wash it off. I'll dab it off in a paper towel, put it aside for now. And I'm gonna grab my medium small brush. And I'm gonna mix some blue with some black. So I'll put it on the side, no white by the way. And then I'll add some black to it. Make that mixture of blue and black. I know it looks almost black here, but really it is blue and black mixture. It's not a true black. And with this, I'm gonna add it right here. I'll add a bit more on top. I'll bring it down. And I'll add some from the bottom up here. And a touch on the left. Alright, this looks pretty good. And whenever this is a little drier, you can add a bit more white there. In my case, it's so dry. I can't say that it's fully dry, but what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna speed it up a little bit. I'll use a little bit of cheating here. I'll do some hair dryer. Alright, well that speeds it up a lot. And then I'm gonna grab some white. Not a ginormous amount either. And I'm gonna just flick some white here. Alright, maybe I'll add a couple more here, just like a dry brushed couple pieces. Okay, I like it. I think this looks great. Alright. And I will still, by the way, add more white to the background, but I kind of want to, again, get a couple more elements going before I do that. I might do that just as a last step. So next thing that I'm going to move on to is going to be my leaves. So I'm going to start coloring them in. And the thing with leaves, they're just a variety of shades of the same colors that we've already added. It's a variety of shades of green with some occasional blue and a little bit of yellow. So what I would start with is I'm gonna make a light green, I'm gonna make medium green, I'm gonna make, well, there are gonna be a lot of greens. So let's start with just two. Let's start with light and a medium green. And I'm gonna be using my medium small brush here, but you're more than welcome to use any other brush that works for you. Small brush might work, large brush I probably wouldn't recommend, but medium, small, small, or medium are probably good choices. So I'm gonna start by mixing light green. So I'm gonna scoop some yellow on the side. I'll add just a little bit of blue, not too much. Oh, that's too much blue. That's kind of almost medium green. And some white. Well, I guess we'll start with medium green then. That's our medium green. Light green, similar to that, just way more yellow and more white and less blue. All right, this works for my light green. So let's start with those two, I guess, and then we'll add more colors. And I'm gonna move on this three leaves. So I'm gonna start with the one that's behind everything, and it's gonna be light green. So I am quite happy to maneuver with my medium small brush and color it in perfectly with a perfect outline. If you can't, use small brush. You might find it easier. I generally find that square brushes, because of the shape, are quite all right for this, because you can use the corner to get that pointy edge, right? But if you're using pointy medium brush, you might have a hard time with having that really pointy tip, in which case you might want to switch to a small brush for at least the outline and then fill it into a larger brush. Just do the whole thing with smaller brush. It's totally up to you. So then I'm going to grab this lighter green and add it on the left side of the second one. And then I'm going to grab my medium green and color in my right side. I'll overlap my first leaf and just blend them in a little bit. Maybe I'll add a smidge of that medium green on this one too, so it's not so straight light yellow, light green. All right, and then last one, I'll do the same thing. So I'm gonna start with my light green, and I'm just dabbing my brush off in between because it's compatible color. So as long as my brush is nice and dry, with not too much paint on it, I don't really have to wash it off. Because again, I'm not changing the color dramatically. I'm just changing between the two shades of the same color. Then I'm gonna dab it off on my paper towel and grab darker green, and I'm gonna overlap that leaf. And again, dab my brush off on a paper towel and slightly merge them. All right, great. So that's my first 3 leaves. Now this one is going to be light green again. So again, dab off your brush on a paper towel. Go ahead and add light green. And when you color in leaves, make sure you overlap your background a little bit. So you want your leaf to be actually a bit bigger, so there is a bit of overlap of a leaf on a background. That way you're going to clean up all your lines. They're going to look much nicer and crisper if you do it that way. And then I'm going to add next one right here. So again, the behind one. And then I'll add in between my medium leaf. I might even add just a smidge of blue. I'll take a smidge of dark blue, just a small one, and add it in. Slightly change the shade of this one. All right, great. Looks pretty good to me. Okay, now I'll wash off my brush and I'll go back to my light green. And I'll add this one in light green as well. I might need to make a bit more light green. There's going to be some white and light blue on it, but I'll add that later. I don't have to add it on wet. You could, but I don't want to mix another color for now. So I'm just going to make a bit more light green because I didn't mix a lot of it and I'm already out. I'm going to mix a little bit more. And if you have to mix it twice, if your second time doesn't turn out exactly like first time, it's not a bad thing. You're just going to have a bit more variety. For this painting, that's a good thing. So here is my light green again. I'm going to go on my next leaf. And this one. And this one. And if you feel like there is not enough, you can even just add a few more that weren't originally in the plan, but you feel like they should be there, so just add them on. All right, now I'm gonna take this one and I'm gonna color it in with a mixture of dark blue and black. So I'm gonna grab my dark blue again, put it here. This time I'm adding just a bare minimum of black. I might even use the touch that I already have in that spot. I'm gonna color in this leaf. Again, see for yourself which brush is the most comfortable for you to use. For me, this medium small is still quite a good choice. And I still feel like it's the most comfortable brush for me personally. So I'm gonna stick with that. But if it's not for you, grab the one that seems more comfortable. Small brush is always the safest choice. All right, that looks pretty good. And while I'm on this color, I'm gonna go on to around these two leaves here. I'll add a bit of that too. Just like a little outline. This painting is very abstract, so if you were to ask me why it's there, there's no reason other than it looks visually good. And I'll add a little bit here, a little bit here, maybe even here. Yeah, it doesn't represent anything, it doesn't do anything, it just looks good. That's the only reason why. Alright, I might do a little bit around here too. And this part in the middle, I'm literally just gonna color it in. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now I'm gonna extend it on this side. Again, just very abstract. Abstract little corner. that looks good. Maybe I'll add a couple brush strokes down here to just bring it down a little bit. And now my top is almost done. There's just a little highlights that I'm going to be adding, but other than that, it's done. But my bottom, still quite a bit of work there. So, okay. So I'm going to use a greener cousin of this color. So I'm going to make a little bit more of the same, just blue and black. But this time I'm going to add a smidge of white to make it a little bit visibly colorful. And I'm going to use a smidge of yellow to give it just a tint of green. And with this one, I'm going to go right here and I'm going to color this one in. And the one behind it as well. And then you can dab off your brush on paper towel, take straight straight black. And I'm gonna add some from the edge in both of them. All right, those two are done. So then I'm gonna dab my brush off on a paper towel once again. You can wash actually, maybe even better this time around. Then I'm gonna grab the same green cousin. I'm gonna go right here. I'll color this in. And I'm gonna color this one in too. All right, then I will color last one, maybe this one. All right, and maybe this one. Why stop here, right? Let's do one more. Then again, I'm gonna take just a smidge of black brush and I'm gonna brush it on from the edge in on this one. And then I'm gonna wash off my brush and I'm gonna make that medium cold green. So I'm gonna start probably with blue this time. I'll start by mixing blue and white to about medium blue color. Then I'm gonna add some yellow until it's a medium cold green. So cold green means it still has a fair bit of blue and probably a bit less yellow. Now this color I'm gonna go right here. I'll color this in. I'll color this in. I'll color this too. don't think I want to be adding anything else necessarily to them. I think I'll just add a bit more yellow this time. And I'll add a couple of flicks from the inside out. Oh yeah, that looks good. Okay, then I'm gonna take the end of this one. I'm gonna start coloring it in. Maybe a smidge here too. Then I'll wash off my brush and make light green again. So I'm gonna scoop some yellow, put it on the side, add a little bit of this color that I already have, and some white, and here we go. I got light green, so again yellow, just a little bit of darker green or blue, and some white. With this color I'm gonna color in this leaf. We'll blend it with that beginning there. We'll color in the remainings of this one. Maybe I'll grab a bit more of this previous color, or any darker green, just flick it from the inside out, just to darken it up. And then I'm gonna grab straight up dark blue. So again, dab off your brush in between. Then I'm gonna add some quite dark blue right here. And maybe even right here. Alright, I'm quite happy with this. I think I like it. So now I'm gonna add one more color on my leaves. I'm gonna add a light blue. So I will wash off my brush really well. I'll scoop some white on the side. I'll add just a little bit of blue. I'll make nice and light blue. And using just a little bit of it, I'm gonna add a little flick right here, a little highlight there. If you wanted to, you can add it on this one too. Maybe on this one if you want to, but you don't have to. And I'll add some right here too, where we just worked there. And I think I'm good, but anywhere else where you want to edit, please go ahead and edit. You can ruin it with this color. All right, I'm almost done with my leaves. I'll still add a bit of white, but I'll wait until last steps to add those final touches of white. So I think I'm gonna start moving on to my flowers here. And what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna pause this video and I'm gonna go ahead and change my water, because my water is this and I don't want that. I'm gonna be moving on to very light colors, so I want my water to stay nice and clean. So I'm gonna go ahead and change my water and I'll be back. And for you guys, that's gonna feel like 1 second. And I suggest you do the same, especially because this is a video tutorial. You can pause it. So pause it or take a little break and go change your water. And I'll see you guys in a second. All right, so now we're gonna move on to our flowers. And for the flowers, we're gonna do quite a bit of layering. So might be helpful to have a hair dryer nearby just to speed up the process. If you don't have one nearby, that's totally fine. You can do this without hair dryer. You're just gonna need to take a little breaks in between to let your paint dry up. So I'm gonna start with using my large brush. And I'm gonna use some white, but also I'm gonna use some white mixed with this pink color. So we're gonna make this pink color. I'm gonna scoop some white on the side. Then to this white, I'm gonna add a bit of red and mix them up. You see it turns into a nice light pink. And then to this color, I'm gonna add just a little bit of yellow as well to give it that warmer pink, almost like peach or coral undertone. Don't overdo it because it's going to turn into a full-on orange if you do. You just want to add a warmer tint, that's all. So for me, I think this should be a really good color. And then I'm going to take just a touch of this color, some white, mix them up, and I'm going to start layering the flower petals. So do you see I'm overlapping? I'm going to show you closer actually. I'm overlapping the background too, and I'm just flicking the brush strokes down, some longer, some shorter, for the upper part of my flower. You see that's upper part of my flower. Now that I have this, I'm going to refill my brush with paint. I'm going to grab a bit more white this time, and I'm going to do second half. So second half is going to be right here. So the same thing, you're still going to flick, but you're not going to start as high up. So you're going to flick here now. And if you run out of paint, for next batch you can grab, let's say, a little bit more pink. So they're not all the same. You want them to be slightly different. So for every batch of little dabs, you can grab a bit more white or pink. So do you see? It's how you layer it. And this time I'm using quite a bit of paint so that you can see the texture. Even when it dries, you're still gonna have a bit of that texture. So that's my first flower. I'm gonna go my second one. I'm gonna do the exact same thing. So I'm gonna refill my brush with paint, a bit of white mixed with that pink, and I'm gonna start flicking it from the outside in, overlapping my background a little bit as well. So that's my first layer, then the second one. And I'm using quite a generous amount of paint here. So you see until my flower about halfway through done. And then I'm going to refill it with my brush with paint again. And I'm going to do second side, so basically flicking now from here down for the second part of my flower. And now I'm going to grab just a touch more pink here. Maybe I'll add a bit of pink right here. And then I'm going to go on my third one and I'll do again the exact same thing. So I'm going to take some white, mix it with some of my pink. I'm going to start, and notice I'm going to I might even take a bit more white here to overlap this flower there, and a bit heavier. Go a bit heavier to keep it visible. And I'm overlapping this little guy too on the right, so I added some here. And I'll add a bit more white. So again, if it's turning into two of the same, just spice it up with a little bit of more white or a little bit more pink, whichever. And then I'm gonna grab, let's go with more pink this time. I might need to mix a bit more pink in a second. I'm just gonna add that second part of the flower. And then some white. All right, and now I'm gonna take just a little bit to the same color I just used, so that's a mixture of light pink and white. I'm gonna take just a tiny smidge of blue. I'll add it in, and with a touch of this color, I'm gonna add a couple brush strokes right here, and a couple little ones right here. You can even add a smidge of purple instead of blue too if you have purple pre-made. You might find blue a little harsh, in which case you can just add a smidge of red too. It's going to turn it more into purple. All right, so that's my first layer. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dry it up because again, I use quite a thick layer of it. As you can see, it's not gonna be a 2-minute dry. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna help it out a bit with my blow dryer. Okay, this is pretty dry again. Blow dryer does a really good job and really fast. So now I'm gonna add a bit of a middles and then I'm gonna do second layer. So for the middles, I'm gonna mix this very unusual color. Oops, large brush ran away from me. And you can use your large brush or your medium brush, don't matter, whatever works. So I'm gonna mix some red, I'll scoop it on the side, with a tiny smidge of white, so not a lot of white, and a little bit of yellow, not a lot of yellow either, and black. It's gonna create this wine-like color. And then using very minimal of this color, I may even dab a paintbrush on a paper towel after taking some on. I'm gonna just, you see, lightly flick some here from the middle out. Just you have to have your brush basically with so little paint and you just scrape the surface of your canvas. And I'm gonna bring it a little bit down here. All right, and just a touch of that here too. All right, that's done. If you wanted to, you can even darken it up and add a bit on the bottom. So for example, to the same color, if you have any left, you can add a bit more black. And with this darker color, you can even darken it up a bit. But this is optional, you can keep it light too. All right, that's done. Now I'm gonna go back and make a bit more of that pink because again, I ran out. I don't mix a lot of paint, which is good and bad. Good because I don't waste anything, but I sometimes have to remix it many times, but that's okay. I don't mind. So I'm gonna make a bit more of that light pink. I'm gonna scoop some white on the side. I'm gonna grab some red again, mix them up, make nice, fairly light pink, and then add just a little bit of yellow to it to give it the right tone. All right, that's my pink. And then I'm gonna grab just a little bit of that, mix it with white again. And I'm gonna add second layer, but only where it needs to, so you don't have to add it everywhere. In certain areas you can add more white, certain areas you can add, so do you see I added a couple of brush strokes pretty much all around this top flower. Now I'm gonna take straight white and I'm gonna add a bit of straight white. This second round, don't add as much paint, use less paint because it needs to look a bit more transparent than the first round. Do you see I am just adding a couple brush strokes, I'm not doing a full coverage. on this upper part, and now I'm gonna do the bottom part. See, it kind of layered it up a bit. And then I'm gonna take yellow and I'll mix it with a tiny touch, sorry, white, and I will mix it with a tiny touch of yellow. And somewhere around this bottom part, I'm gonna add a bit of that too. All right, that looks good. Now I'm gonna dab off my brush on paper towel. You can wash it too. And grab just a tiny touch of this pink, and I'll just add some straight pink closer to the sides and the bottom to shape it a little bit. All right, that one is almost done. Just left a little bit of yellow in the middle. Now I'm gonna move to my next one. Oh, actually, let's do that one first. So again, I will just use white. I think I have quite a bit of mixture color. We'll just take some white. I'll do a couple brush strokes. You can do whichever brush you want. I'm still staying with the large one because I like it. No other reason. And again, don't use as much paint as the first time. You can use way less this time. So you see I did a bit on the outer layer, and then I'm gonna do on this inner one. I added a few there. Now I'm gonna dab off my brush on my paper towel to make sure it's nice and dry and clean. And I'm gonna take just a touch of that straight pink. And I'm gonna bring it from the bottom up. Just shaping it a little bit. All right, my last one. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'll wash off my brush. Let's just use straight white. Not wash, dab it off on paper towel. You can wash, that's no problem. I'll use straight white and not as much as before. I'm gonna start on the upper part and I'll just add a couple flicks to add a bit of that layering. Then once that's done, I'm gonna add a bit more and I'm gonna continue on this bottom part. See, just like little dabs, because this one is most open flower, right? So I'm just doing a bit of dabs in around it. Those on top are more like this, and those here are more like this. And for the bottom, now I'm going to dab off my brush and paper towel again. I'm going to take some straight pink. I'll just add some straight pink. Again, dry brushing it so it doesn't look too blobby. We'll shape it. We'll add a bit of shape with that. All right, my flowers are almost done. So now I'm going to wash off this large brush. I'll dab it off on a paper towel, put it aside, and I'm going to grab my small brush. And I'm going to mix some white with some yellow to make really bright yellow. So even though there's white mixed into it, it still has a lot of actual yellow, so it should be quite bright, just lighter than normal yellow would be. And I'm going to dab up the middle. So I'm going to add a couple of dabs here, the middle of this flower. I'll add a couple dabs for the middle of this flower. And of course a couple dabs for the middle of our last flower. All right. And now I'm gonna go back to my medium brush, medium small actually. Where is it? Oh, here we go. And I'm gonna take a little bit of white, but not as little as before. So just a little bit more than, do you remember when we used dry brushing technique here? use bare minimum, so this time we're taking so amount. And I'm just gonna go back here and I'm gonna add a bit of just like an outline in white. And then I'm gonna flick it down so it's gonna look a little more linear than before. Same here. I'll add some white on those leaves on top. You can also do this with a small brush if it's easier. All right, and now we're gonna add a couple of brush strokes, so they're gonna be like flicks. You can do them with medium, but you can also do them with small brush. So I would say just see for yourself which one is more comfortable for you. I think small one is always a safer choice. So I'm just gonna grab my small brush. I'll water down a little bit my white so it's easier to use. And then I'm gonna go on top and I'm gonna add a couple from the bottom up here. Couple going down from the top as well. So that's that. Then I'm gonna add a few here. A little bit right here. And then I'm gonna add a couple of dots. So I'm gonna add a couple of dots here. Some bigger, some smaller, and you just adjust that based on how much you push and how much paint you use. If you use just the very tip of your brush, the dots are usually smaller. If you push a little bit harder, they will be bigger. And of course you can use a bit more paint for the bigger dots, a bit less paint for the smaller dots. And I'll add a couple dots in here too. Right, and now I'm gonna do a bit of splatter. So I'm gonna wash off my brush. I'm gonna go back to my large one. I'll dip it in water. I'll water down my white pretty well. And after that, I'm gonna take one clean brush and I'll hold it like this, pretty close to the canvas. It doesn't have to be super close, but I would say maybe an inch from the canvas. At least for me, I find that that's comfortable. And I'm gonna do a little bit of that smaller splatter. Some around this section, and I'll do some around this section too. If you want to go anywhere else with splatter, you can. I like personally more controlled, just a spot or two or three. So if there's one more spot you want to add it in, please go ahead. But I probably wouldn't recommend going everywhere. It looks better if it's just a couple spots versus like the whole thing. For this particular painting again. And then guys, after that, you can go ahead and sign it because we are officially done. So choose a spot and you can put your name, your initials, or anything else that you would like. I originally signed mine right here. It's a not very visible signature because, you know, I didn't want to take away from the painting. But yeah, you can sign it anywhere you want. Maybe this time I'll sign in a different spot. Just take my small brush and I'll sign maybe this. Done, done, and done. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed painting with me today. I am really looking forward to seeing some of your beautiful artworks. If you want to share them with us, and I sure hope you do, please feel free to go by the link. There is a link in the description of this video. It's a Facebook group. That's where we encourage everyone to show their results so you can see other people's paintings as well, and hopefully we'll get to see yours. If you don't want to, that's no problem. You don't have to, but we do appreciate when you post them, because we want to see how they turn out on the other end too, right? Because we don't get that and we love it. That's our favorite part. And if you guys really enjoyed this and you want to say thank you by tipping me, feel free to do that. There's a PayPal link in the description of this video. You can just click on that, choose send money, and you choose any amount of tip that you would like to donate. Tips like this really help us to create more videos on our YouTube channel here. And if you guys want to say thank you any other way, you're more than welcome to, share this video with a friend, push like, leave a nice comment, whatever makes you happy. We appreciate all those nice gestures. They make us very happy as well. And of course, like and subscribe if you haven't yet. We have a lot of wonderful videos here already, and we add more every week. Some weeks we go live, and some weeks we just upload pre-recorded video tutorials. And hopefully I'll see you guys again soon. Bye everyone.